Welcome to the TalkABLE podcast, where we explore the intersection of disability and the church. Join us for uplifting conversations as we celebrate inclusion, share inspiring stories, and discuss how communities can become more accessible and welcoming. Tune in for heartwarming discussions that redefine what it means to be a supportive and inclusive community. Welcome back to TalkABLE. We have missed you. It was a busy season, but we are back and ready to bring you this awesome episode.
Amen. We're excited. It's been so long. Summer was crazy. We're excited, and we've got a great episode for you today. We're going to talk about the holidays.
My favorite time of year.
However you feel about them. Some people get excited, some people get nervous, but we're excited to just jump right into this conversation. It can be a whirlwind of emotions and stress, especially when we're balancing the unique needs of each of our families, whether it's navigating travel or managing sensory overload or simply keeping up with the demands of your family traditions. The holiday season can feel like a whole different ballgame. And so, especially when we're parenting a child with disabilities, right?
Absolutely. In today's episode, we're diving into some practical tips and heartfelt strategies to help you prepare for the holidays in a way that works for your family. We'll talk about everything from creating realistic expectations, setting up a sensory-friendly space, to finding moments of joy amongst the chaos. We know that this season is more than just the festivities. It's about making memories to work for you and your loved ones and to celebrate the true reason of the season, the birth of our Savior.
Amen. So we've got Stephanie Gossard joining us today and Stephanie Suter. Did I say your last name right?
Yep.
Right. Okay. They're joining us to help us navigate this conversation. So whether you're a seasoned pro or this is maybe your first year navigating the holidays with your child with disabilities, just jump right in. We've got you covered. Grab your favorite cup of tea or your coffee in a cozy spot and just enjoy this conversation. Just pretend like we're sitting right across from you.
That's what we're doing. We're just hanging out with our friends today. Yeah. But before we get started, would both of you like to take a minute and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your family and anything?
Sure. I am the content manager for ABLE Ministry.
Woo!
I have a 19-year-old with Fragile X syndrome, which is a genetic reason you have autism or an intellectual disability. So I have been playing this game for a long time, and I am so excited to be here.
And I'm Stephanie Suter. I live in Missouri. I'm Missouri's ABLE representative. I'm a licensed counselor. I have 3 sons, and they're all somewhere on the neurodivergent spectrum, autism, severe ADHD, that sort of thing. So my son's getting ready to be 14. So it's been a while, and we've learned a lot of things along the way.
Awesome. We are so excited to have both of you. And, like they just said, they've got years of experience, especially in this topic, navigating the holidays. So let's just jump right in. How do you set realistic expectations for the holidays when going into it, my child may struggle with the holidays, the change in routine and the different traditions and expectations? How do you set those expectations in your home and in your family?
Well, I think that a long time ago, my family kind of made up our mind that we weren't going to let neurodivergence just run everything, but that we were going to accommodate everywhere that we could. And so I think that the expectation is mostly for me and my husband and for the other adults in our lives to be flexible. I think that's the biggest thing. We have to be flexible. So, we've had times where we have to stop on the way to an event and let meltdowns happen or whatever. Sometimes my kids don't end up wearing the, picture perfect clothes that I was hoping they would, or sometimes we end up spending half the time sitting in the car while the other family is doing what they need. But whatever it is, I play flexibility, my husband plays flexibility, and we just make things work,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for us, we kind of take the opposite approach. So we our whole life revolves around our son and what his needs are. And I think that's because when he was little, if he got overstimulated, he would throw up.
Mhm.
So there
Yeah.
was no way we were going to just push through.
Right.
We kind of had to like just make our world revolve around him. And so a lot of our holiday time is spent separate.
Mhm.
So we might go as a family, drive separately, 2 cars, go as a family. And then if it's my relatives, I will stay and my husband will take my kid home, or vice versa. And so we did that for a number of years. Thankfully, our family understands and is quite compassionate. And we never get any like any of that from them. So that's been helpful.
That's
that's
helpful for
awesome.
me too. I mean, my family has always just been like, oh, what do you need? You know, how can we help? And sometimes it's just like, we need to go now. That's what we need. And so
Mhm.
they're just always really understanding of that. That's super helpful when your family can be on board with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I
And
think
I like-
sometimes, go ahead.
I like how you said, like, sometimes we spend half of it out in the car.
Mhm.
Like my kid, anytime it got time for opening presents, he would go in a back bedroom and just not participate at all with that. So yeah, sometimes you just kind of have to back away. So
Right.
Yeah. I think too, like sometimes we put a lot of pressure on our extended families, and without having that conversation with them, I think sometimes they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And if we're not willing to have that conversation,
Right.
then, we need to be prepared for the frustration that's going to follow. Just
Right.
opening that conversation, saying, we want to be here. We want to be involved in the traditions, but we want it to be enjoyable for everyone, ourselves, our child, and for our extended, like all of the extended family. So sometimes that's going to look a little different, and just asking everybody to just give a little grace. And I think by just explaining that, most people are going to be open, and they want everybody's holiday to be enjoyable too. So
Right.
just have that conversation, don't be afraid of that.
Right. I just wrote down, like, everybody knows, if you've listened long enough, I take notes while we talk because that's how I don't interrupt. Ooh, and I just lost my camera. I wrote down grace, and I think I struggled with, when Bennett was younger, I think I just expected everybody to like jump right in like we did. And like we had minor conversations, but we didn't explain like why he needed whatever he needed. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I know a lot of this, we're calling this Operation Happy Holiday so that we can all have a good holiday season. But I'm sitting here thinking about Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving was so much harder for us than Christmas because my mom is the youngest of 9, and everybody comes to our house for every holiday. So we have anywhere between 35 to 50 people for a holiday. And Bennett was not a people person at all. And he really had food sensitivity. So on top of all of that, I'm thinking Thanksgiving, like, he didn't like any of that. So people were very offended when they slaved over yams or mashed potatoes or whatever for hours. And I was making him chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, or, whatever it was he would eat at that point. But I think Grace and our extended family, like, just having that conversation maybe in June to give them time to process,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or give a how-to guide. I did that. I really actually did do that. I made a how-to guide for Bennett, like for my aunts and uncles who weren't really around him a lot. Like, if you have questions, here it is, because I don't have time to answer you right now.
Not when we're in the throes of the day. Yeah.
No.
It's definitely a pre-holiday conversation. So
Absolutely.
have this conversation early. Yeah.
Yes. So don't be afraid to go ahead. You go ahead first.
Speaking of people being offended, Tessa, you said that you always have a bunch of people. So we are out of town from our family now, and people will feel bad about us not having family to be with, on whatever holiday.
Yeah.
And they invite us over. And we're just like, no,
We're good.
Don't want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
But again, you don't want to offend people.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But it's like, if my kid goes to your family's gathering and there are 50 people there, he's going to be really, really nervous and like, it's just anxiety provoking for him.
And I really don't
So-
want to puke up off your carpet. Like,
Well, he doesn't do that anymore, but like, but
yeah,
yeah, like we don't want, we want to spend the holiday with him, we don't want him back in,
right.
he could tolerate it if he was in a back bedroom somewhere, but then he's not like enjoying the holiday with us.
That's not a part, right? It's
So
a part.
So people will ask us, do you want to come over? And we're like, no, go away. We don't want that.
Kindly, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Kindly, no, thank you.
For sure.
Oh my goodness. All right. What strategies do you use? We kind of started talking about this, but what strategies do you use to create a sensory-friendly holiday environment for your child? I packed lunches. I packed like fidget bags and a Bennett, evacuation bag or whatever.
I love that.
Just trying to think of what those are called, like the apocalypse people put their bags in, like a doom bag or what. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We had everything.
And I think a spot to go, Stephanie, like you said, like the car is sometimes the only option,
right?
If you know ahead of time, call the host and say, my kid's going to need a spot,
right,
someplace that's kind of quiet, that or headphones. I mean, headphones work too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And don't be afraid of tablets and phones, because I'm sitting here thinking too, we're talking just our family, but we all are going to have church places to go and church functions and church programs and kids' Christmas parties, and you just do what you got to do to survive. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We aren't making them terrorists. Okay. We're just going to do what we got to do to survive.
Don't feel bad about the iPad.
No.
That's
we're not
something that I
about
struggle a lot with. Go ahead.
Buy new movies, get new apps, get new games, anything you can do to help you get through that day.
Yeah.
That's something that I struggled a lot with in the beginning, because my family, like my parents, are not really like, they're very, no, we don't just sit on the iPad. No, we don't just blah, blah, blah. They're very much like, that's not how we handle things. And so, especially in the beginning, it'd be like, well, here's my phone, and if I can get you to play a couple things on my phone or something, then it'll be okay. And then it kind of became like well, then the other kids want to be on my phone, and I'm like, no, we don't all have to be on a phone. It's going to be okay, But
right.
and then of course I did the whole worrying about, am I letting him spend too much time on an iPad? Am I letting, screens just be in control of everything? And it was so much like judgment on myself, but also like feeling judged from other people. But the truth is, my oldest son, he takes his iPad and his Switch everywhere we go, and he doesn't even spend all the time on it, but sometimes just having his stuff helps him feel better.
Blanket, absolutely.
And then it helps us sometimes if it's like he's starting to escalate, then be like, hey buddy, no, let's go, you want to go try playing this, do you want to go do this instead? And a lot of times that gives us more time to be able to stay, it kind of buys us the time that we need to be able to
take a bite of food.
Other kids can enjoy the things that they want to do, that sort of thing. So I totally agree with that. We can't be afraid of using whatever it is they need. And there is actually a lot of research that suggests that people who are neurodivergent use the screens as a different kind of way to escape than neurotypical people do. And it's helpful to calm their nervous system instead of escalating their nervous system. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can embrace that. But it was hard in the beginning.
I agree. That's a conversation. It's a tricky one because not everybody understands it. And, I was the same way you were, Stephanie. Like in the beginning, I didn't want my kid to be on a tablet all the time. And I was very hesitant to start that. And we do have to be careful, obviously, with the amount of time we allow. But we're talking about the holidays and kind of making it through some of those hard days. And, my little boy, he has a tablet and he's got the headphones and it's got games on it and stuff. And if that's what he needs to calm down for a minute, then that's what we do. And for us too, eating is really hard. Sitting at the table is really hard for him. And I do make accommodations to help. I understand there's other kids there and parents, they're trying to parent their kid, and I don't let him bring the tablet like to the table while everybody's there. He typically doesn't want to eat whenever we're all eating anyways. He likes to
Right.
do kind of his own thing. So I used to stress about that. I wanted him to sit at the table with us, and we're all eating together as a family right now. But when there's 35 people sitting in the same room eating and all the conversation that's happening, that's too much for him. And then it becomes too much for me. And I get stressed because of him getting overstimulated. It's like a domino effect in our
Yep.
house. And so I don't even force him to eat at the same time anymore.
Right.
Typically, he's going to eat, like before or after we do. Usually it's after, because he's distracted with the new place that we're at or the people, and he's wandering.
Right.
And it's not until he's kind of checked everything out before he's going to sit down and even eat anything, whether I brought it or not, which I typically do. I'm just like you, Tessa. I'm packing a lunch because he's not going to eat turkey. It's just not going to happen.
I love that. I'm not smart in that way. We one time, it was just my sister and my brother-in-law were here for Thanksgiving, and we forced him to come eat with us, and he
She
laid on
put
the
up air
floor.
quotes for those listening. Like she
He
forced air quote.
he laid on the floor for 40 minutes and refused to get to the table.
It's been there.
Which was not smart on our part. You know what I mean? It wasn't comfortable for, I'm sure, for my sister and brother-in-law, and it wasn't comfortable for my son for sure. When the whole gang is here, sometimes he will come to the table if he's the only one. So we'll get dinner ready, and then we'll have them like go downstairs or go outside and have him come to the table, and then they join us. So like crazy things that like, you do what, but it works for our family. And I think like that's kind of the whole thing. Like
your village is going to understand. Right.
Like whatever works for your kid. If you need an iPad at the table to have him sit at the table, and that's important to you, let him have an iPad at the table. You kind of have to pick your battles.
Absolutely.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And all of this, I think we've learned just by trial and error, just what's worked. Oh no, hold on. I forgot these are automatic lights, and if I don't move, the light goes off. Yeah, so I think all of this is just trial and error, just things that we've figured out through the years that do work, and we're still learning. We're all still learning what works.
And if you're newer to this and you've got a younger kiddo and you're listening, don't go in with a plan, because your plan is going to blow up into smithereens right in front of your face. Just go in with an open mind and Jesus in your heart, and pray before you walk in anywhere, because that's what's going to work.
Absolutely.
It's what works at home, and if it's at your home, great. It's still not going to work because it's not the status quo routine. And if you're going somewhere else, it will be okay, and you will have memories, and you will have joyous moments. It'll be great.
Yeah.
And hone in on your siblings too. Use those siblings, like let them model great behavior, that kind of stuff. But
sometimes the siblings can be the ones that struggle a little bit more too.
Because they see, like, I have a little one. My older one is the one with needs, and my younger one just uses it to his advantage. He's like, but Bennett doesn't have to.
Yeah, for sure. So we touched on this just a tiny bit, but how do you communicate with your extended family about your child's needs during the holidays, especially if they aren't familiar with your child's disability?
I would say whatever conversations happen, it needs to be like, I have conversations with my family, if you're going to have them beforehand, and my husband would have conversations with his family.
Agreed.
Right. Yes, I love that. I agree.
A how-to manual.
Yeah.
The Book of Bennett. That's what we called it. Just add to things and change it up as needed.
Yeah.
You have to just be okay with having the conversation. You can't be afraid of it. You have to be okay with this is what we need, and this is what's going to work. And also, I think another thing that's worked with my family and my husband's family has been more about also like compromise, like this is what we need, but what's really most important to you, and what would be, if I can only come to one, which one's more important, that sort of thing. So
That's
Yeah.
a good point. That's a
but
really good
definitely
point.
having the conversation for sure.
Yeah. And I think too, kind of wanting to address, those that are listening and your family isn't open to making accommodations and, hearing you out on your needs, your child's needs, you know, um, protect the peace of your home.
Yep.
And your family.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't work and they don't want to make those accommodations, explain to them you're going to do what you can to be a part and you want to be a part. But also understanding I have to protect my children and the peace in my home, more than the peace at a family gathering of 50 plus people. So
You're setting the tone for the rest of forever for them, especially when they're younger.
mhm.
And if we can make it a good experience, whether it's like I kind of said before, your village is going to get it. And even if they don't, you're going to find your village of people that will get it. And it may be your church family, it may be your neighbors, it might be for Bennett, he went to a therapy center and we had a family group there. It may be something like that. And I know that hurts. I'm sure we've all dealt with the disappointment of a family at some point, and even the disability. We've talked about this before, the disappointment of a disability. Like, you have these expectations and they die. You can't wait to sit around a big table with your baby there, but if it doesn't work, it's okay, but you'll find your people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What self-care tips do you have for parents during the holiday season, especially when it feels like there's just so much to juggle?
So I would say respite care.
Ooh, good answer.
If often states will provide respite care or give you reimbursement for respite care, use that. Like we've used care.com because we just don't have family around. Our life group, we've suckered those people into taking care of our child every time. But sometimes you just need somebody else to take your kid if it's something that they would not enjoy or something that you just need for yourself.
And you're entitled to that.
Yeah, just use respite care and do what you need to, because sometimes we just need a break.
Yeah.
With no school and no structure, and like, don't expect to get anything done if you're off over the holidays, if your kid's there.
Right.
We'll put info in the description for some different respite places that we've used and websites that are tried and true too, if that's something you want to look into. I know, Stephanie, there's two that we use when we do like ABLE trainings within our districts, but care.com, Stephanie has kind of brought to light a little bit more. And that's, I think, more attainable for people in their areas because it's going to be right to your area. And I think that's such an underutilized tool is, the old school babysitter. It's just a new way of getting them.
Yeah.
And they're going to be, and trial and error before. Don't let it be that night and they've never met this person before. Like, treat yourself to ice cream and go out and give it a try before you're going to see the Nutcracker or something like that, where you're going to be gone for a little while,
Absolutely.
How about you, Stephanie? Any ideas, any suggestions on self-care tips?
I think that what Stephanie said was really good. I live in a pretty rural area, and so like I've tried using care.com before, and I ended up getting somebody to come and help me, but it was not a good situation. So it was kind of like, oh, that didn't work out. And like she said, respite is provided through the state. But I live in a small town, and so I know all the people who provide that kind of care, and I'm like, that's just not an option for us.
Right.
I think it's a good idea if you have the right resources, but it's not an option for us. So one thing that we do in order to be able to kind of get that break, especially during the holidays, is my husband will he'll plan a time when he's with the kids completely, and then I have free time to do whatever the things that I need to do or want to do, or just sit at home, whatever it is. And then, also opposite if that's needed. I am lucky, I'm blessed to have my parents are very helpful with my kids. And so they take them whenever I'm like right now. I was like, hey guys, you're both off today. Would you guys mind if the kids came over for a couple hours? You know, and it was fine. They didn't have any issue with that. They pretty much always say yes unless they have something going on. So that is really specifically helpful to me. So it kind of offsets the fact that I don't really have respite that I can pay for. The other thing I was going to say is I tend to make sure my plans are ready like well in advance. So I have plans for the things I'm going to do in December. So it's like, these are the things that are most important to me. These are the things that are absolutely getting done. And so when people come along with like, hey, do you want to, or actually let's go to this event, then I'm like, sorry, that doesn't fit in my calendar. Like it just, I don't add
Good
extra
answer,
things
yeah.
that are stressful, or you know what I'm saying? Like I don't take on extra
Yeah.
the things that are important or the things that we do, and we don't try
No,
to
not a
please
bad
everybody
word.
or make everything happen. So I think that the planning is really also good self-care. It keeps me not stressed, and it makes it easy to be able to say, oh, I'm sorry, that doesn't fit, you know. So I'm not being
Type B
rude.
mom ADHD over here is like, all right, I got to learn how to do that. That's great. You know, I like spur of the moment, but nobody else in my family does. All the spice in my
Right.
family does not like spontaneity.
And once a year, I actually put a little reminder on my calendar on November. And so after Christmas, I sit down and I write all the things that I wish I had done or that didn't work. And I put that on my calendar the following year.
That's
so
a really
good. So
That's
this
a great
year,
idea.
November 1st, I pull up my little thing and it says, don't forget to eat salad and charcuterie. Only buy 1 box of chocolate covered cherries. You know what I mean? Like all the things that like
I
He's
love
the
that.
person I want to
just need
be
to
when I grow
remember.
up. That's so
right
together. I'm like, yes,
that's
in
that's
theory,
really good. Yes.
yeah. So just like a note
things
to
that worked
yourself.
with your kiddo too is a great idea. I was sitting here and I wanted to ask, like, what's something that you've done at the holidays that has worked with, like, that you could kind of maybe spontaneously go out and do, like getting in the car and looking at lights, or, you know, I wanted to just throw that question when we were done, but you could add it to that list, you know.
Yeah, I love the just driving around and looking at Christmas lights, because that's a low like impact, low cost, like your gas, which you're gonna drive around town, so it's not gonna be terrible. It doesn't, you
Right.
don't have to drive, 30 minutes away or anything. I think that's a really great one, because you're not having to worry about, weather. Honestly, your kids could get in the car in their pajamas. Like, you don't even have to get
That's
them
how we do it.
dressed, and just make it, kind of fun. And you could even, make it kind of like an I Spy game, like whoever sees a Santa first, or Rudolph, or, just add like different things, for your kid to look for, to make it more interactive and fun, and playing those Christmas carols.
We're in Pennsylvania, so we have Hershey Chocolate World does like a drive through, and like there's different amusement parks here. But what we did last year was we got like a special ticket and printed it out, and so a little bit of spontaneousness for me. My husband knew, so he could plan, because he doesn't like when I'm like, yeah, let's go do it right now. But we got like special bags like from the Dollar Tree and filled it with their favorite snacks, each of them. And like, so we got some kind of, and that became one of our holiday traditions. Was, I shouldn't say just last year, but we added the bags last year. We've done this before. But that's something you could add in, and make it your own, spin it around. I know people with minivans have taken their seats. A girl in our church did that. She took all the seats out of the minivan and made like a little bed in the back with blankets, and they could sit and stretch out and look at them. And so much fun. Right? I think I'd like that without my kids.
We always did that same sort of thing. I always print out like a scavenger hunt. My kids love it.
Scavenger hunt's cool.
When my son reached puberty, suddenly he had a problem in the car. And so like this awesome activity that we've been doing all these years suddenly was, even the car was way too much. And so it was kind of back to that flexibility that I said earlier.
Yeah,
it was like, we all get in the car and we're like thinking, oh, this is going to be great. He'll like this. It'll be fun. And it was not great. And so we ended up just changing plans around. So he and I came back home. My husband and the other boys went and did what they needed to do. And so now, like now he doesn't have any problem with it. And the truth is he loves Christmas and loves Christmas lights, but that time was not, it just didn't work. Every time we were in the car, it didn't work. And so I think that having those plans is really great. I think that that goes back to the flexibility. Like I have to be able to
And go boom kind of moment. Yeah.
yeah, I have to accommodate whatever comes up.
Yeah,
Going
for
places.
sure.
Yeah. Going places and knowing when they're not busy, you know, if you like going to see a tree somewhere or, you know, doing something like that.
I think too, you know, talking about the self-care and something Stephanie said was, you know, knowing your schedule and being able to say no. Um, this is something I still struggle with. Like, I want to say yes. I want to do all the things. Like, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to, you know, upset people, but I have to constantly remind myself there are consequences to every yes, and they can be good, but sometimes there's some bad consequences. So I have to sit and remind myself, is this going to be worth whatever the consequences are? And I'm trying, still trying. My family's going to listen to this and they're going to be laughing. I'm trying to be better about saying no. I can't say yes to everything. And, you know, just kind of giving ourselves grace for when we have to say no, because we can't be everywhere and we can't be everything to all people. So
Yeah.
I've heard that. Go ahead, Stephanie.
We
Go ahead.
only have so many spoons, right? Are you familiar with that? Like we only have so many pieces of energy, so to speak. And our kids only have so many. So if you use up everything that they have in the morning,
right,
like you said, there's going to be some consequences later in the day.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I was thinking, I wrote down the consequences to every yes, and then the ADHD struck, and I was like, oh, self-care moment. Somebody told me there's moms in our area who rent out hotel rooms to wrap all of their Christmas presents. They go for a night and they have a sleepover in their pajamas and they bring their charcuterie. Like, I don't know if I have a group of moms, my friends, that would do that, but I think that's phenomenal.
so cool.
Or like, mom and dad, can I come over? I mean, my parents are not here, but you know, if you have parents like, can I come over to my old room and wrap my Christmas presents in my room and leave my kids at home with my husband, like just hide out, you know, that I think could be a great form of self-care. Like knowing that being by yourself is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I struggled with that. I want to know every moment and be a part of everything and suck it all in because they're going to be grown before I know it. But
Yeah.
mommy can't help if mommy's
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think our last question is, what is your favorite holiday tradition? And it can be something that's like you never thought would have been one of your holiday traditions that just has happened, you know, as your family has grown.
So I have seasonal affective disorder.
Yes, we talked about that.
Let's throw that out there. Wet blanket on this holiday. And so I don't have a lot of energy to decorate, but my mother-in-law gave us a little tiny tree. And so on Christmas Eve, we always take that little tiny tree, and we don't decorate before because my kid gets really anxious about like, is it going to be yet? Like anticipation.
Yeah.
But we decorate this little tiny tree with probably 20 decorations.
That's awesome.
It's just lovely because my kid can help us decorate. It's like as tall as I am on a table, and you know, it doesn't take a lot of effort, but that is really something special that I look forward to every year.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I do love that because we put so much pressure on just
not yet. It's coming.
the decorations and on, you know, following the traditions that have always been. But if the tradition that has always been is just a tradition and it's not, you know, a peaceful time for you, it's not something that brings you joy, not something that brings your family joy, then you don't have to do it. Like, don't do it just because it's always been.
Right.
Do what works. And I love that. I love that for your family, and that, you know, your mother-in-law was even a part of that. Like, she's the one that gifted.
Yeah.
And you said, you know, you keep it really small. It works for him and for you. And I love that. That's
I
awesome.
love that the expectation, like, all right, we put the tree up, tomorrow's Christmas, like presents, you know?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I think that sounds really good, honestly. My oldest son loves Christmas, so he wants to put the Christmas tree up, like his birthday is
Today.
next week. He wants it up like on his birthday. But the other thing is, if it's up on his birthday, he's not going to sleep for a week around that, because we have to move around the living room in order to put the Christmas tree up. And if anything gets changed, he's not going to sleep. And so
Mhm.
it's kind of like, okay, can we at least wait a bit to put it up? I don't know. Usually we end up putting it up after Thanksgiving is usually when we go with that. But as far as my favorite memory of, or my favorite tradition, sorry, a few years ago, my whole extended family started having Christmas on the Saturday before Christmas. So there was no more like trying to run to grandma's house on Christmas and trying to go to other side of the family's house on
That's
Christmas.
good.
Yeah. And so my husband's family lives further away. And so we kind of try to make plans with them however we can, however it works that year. But on Christmas Day now, we basically can just stay home. That is the biggest. It's great. It's wonderful. Just it
That's
feels
wonderful.
good and it's so much fun and it's so much better for my kids
It
because
extends Christmas too.
yeah, they get to open up their presents. We don't have to get up. Like my kids are not early risers. I know a lot of neurodivergent kids are. My kids are not. So especially my oldest son, he sleeps in late because he stays up really late. And so I'm not like having to get everybody up so they can open presents and then rushing through that or anything like that. We chill until they get up, which my parents are like, it's 7 o'clock and they're not up yet. What's going on? And I'm just like, they can sleep in. It's fine. So my parents always come over to our house and watch our kids open presents or whatever, but they get to do it kind of on their own terms. They wake up, open what they want. Sometimes my oldest son will open up like a few things and then decide he has to put together this Lego set.
Yep, and then come back.
It's okay because we have all day. We're home and it's fun. And I make I make the food that they like and we make things sort of easy for the day. And so that's probably my favorite, at least new.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's
I
been
love
wonderful.
that.
Now, I wouldn't want to miss out on like going to my extended family's Christmas. I wouldn't want to miss out on that, but I am grateful that they kind of all of like my age cousins talked about it and we're like, hey, let's change things up a little bit. And so, and I think it works really well. And again, it works way better for my kids. I remember when I was a kid opening my presents and then piling them all neatly because it was time to go to grandma's house.
Oh,
Yes.
I could just do that easily. My kids cannot do that easily. They're like, no, but we want to play. And can I take this? And can I open this?
No, you're going to lose all the parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's
So,
what I'm sitting here.
It
My
works
poor
so
kid.
much better.
We can't move anything. We live with my grandmother who turned 97 yesterday and she runs circles around me. She was just playing baseball with the boys last night after we sang to her all the things, but we still have everything here for her comfort. But that is, they hate and love Christmas morning, but they are not early risers. So we get up in just enough time to open everything, look, ooh and ah, and pack it all up, send it upstairs and set up the catering hall. That is my living room, So, I mean, I think we've all come to know I thrive in chaos. So I'm like, yeah. Dopamine chasing through the to-do list and the things that we've got to get done. But that like nice, slow Christmas day just sounds so cozy in my pajamas all day. I tried to do a pajama Christmas and only half of my family participated. So we looked like a bunch of nutcases because half of us had pajamas on and half of us had sparkly Christmas sweaters and
Now, a few years ago, before my family switched, we just switched our Christmas day. So, like on the 26th, we pretended like it was Christmas instead.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
My kids
I
were
like
younger.
it.
Now they all understand the calendar and time and stuff. But when they were younger, it was like, no, tomorrow we're doing Christmas tomorrow. We didn't lie to them.
It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so that worked out well too, because then we didn't interfere with anybody else's plans, but we still got to do things kind of in an accommodating way that was more.
Wonder if I could get away with that. Probably not.
Like I said, my kids are older now and they totally understand the counting down, but when they were younger, it worked out really well.
Yeah. I think for our house, one of the things that we started doing just a couple years ago was picking out a place that we wanted to go look at like a really big light display, because being in the car does still really work for our kids, especially my son that does have sensory needs. Being in the car for him is actually pretty calming. He enjoys it. So I mean, we've traveled as far as like 4 hours and like stayed over the night, which that one I was a little nervous about because sometimes staying in a hotel, that's a whole, you guys know that's a whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah, whole thing. So I was nervous about that one, but it was a great time and we really enjoyed it. And then the last year we just drove, I think it was like an hour and a half. So we got to come back home that night, but just going somewhere that was a little further away. We hadn't seen those lights and kind of planning, a different spot we'd never been to see the big light display. That's been really fun. And I look forward to it. And it's pretty easy to do and plan.
I know I can't pick one tradition. I was like, I don't know if I said it, but we do the pajamas and like now the boys have become a part of picking the pajamas. They like to make cookies for Santa, which just like kills me because my kitchen is ready for tomorrow for the masses to come. And now there's flour everywhere. And they each have their own Christmas tree in their room, which is really fun. And it's just like a little tiny, like 2-foot tree. I don't know. I just love Christmas. My husband was 100% a Grinch before he met me. We really love Thanksgiving. That's my husband's like, that's everything. He's a foodie and he loves it. We love to make all the food but now he really loves Christmas and I don't know. I don't think we have one thing. It's me. We're eclectic. I love something that we do every year. We add takeaway and there's never a routine in what we do.
You love the chaos of Christmas.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think this has been really fun and there's been a lot of good tips, like Tessa said, I'm taking notes too, but
Driving separate is phenomenal.
yeah,
Oh, I
genius. Light bulb.
Right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, driving separately, having flexibility, giving yourself grace, giving your family grace.
Doomsday bags, yeah, for sure.
Yes, all of it. There's so much we can take away from that, and just I think go into it with an open mind and lots of prayer
And low
because
expectations.
low expectations. Yes.
Maybe no expectations.
Yeah,
Practice
there
eating
you
dinner.
go.
There's my other last one. Practice eating dinner. If you're working on that skill set, practice eating dinner together first.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, thank you, ladies, for joining us and sharing all your wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah, we loved it. But we are so excited to be back and sharing all of our fun podcasts with you all. And we've got a whole lineup scheduled. Yeah, we're still figuring this out, guys, because let me tell you, once we hit summer and those camps, I think our last episode was camp episode. And then
camp whooped us. Able is exploding. If you have not followed our page, our fearless leader is in Belgium right now sharing international Able. So Able has been busy. There's been a lot that we've added and grown. There's a siblings group now that has started. There's just so much. So that's what we were in. Shayla and I are very heavily involved in our districts with that, and we got heavily involved. We went from camp to ladies conferences to buying houses and children having needs. But we are back. We're excited. We cannot wait to bring our ideas for this next year and for you guys to listen. We love the response we've had so far. TalkABLE's been so fun. It's been a great tool.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to everybody that's listening and sharing. And we just hope that you all have a happy holiday.
Holiday.
Yes. Thanksgiving and Christmas and into the new year. Just give yourself some grace. Give your kids some grace. And just like we said, low expectations and lots of prayer.
Enjoy your chicken nuggets, your hot dogs, your French fries, your Capri Suns.
Absolutely.
And piles of wrapping paper. We love you all, and we will see you soon. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for more of Able Ministry.